Somehow I knew this would come back to bite me. So way back when I reviewed Food Fight, I mentioned another direct-to-DVD animated movie I remember seeing at the store. Hey, you ever want to see an all-anthropomorphic Wild West version of Cinderella? Oh God. I'm gonna have to review that, aren't I? Well, someone decided to send it to me, so thanks for the donation, Malwave. You and your dumb podcast that you were nice enough to have me on. You jerk. So, Cinderella Once Upon a Time in the West, or Once Upon a Time in the West Cinderella, or Cinderella 3D, or whatever, was a French animated movie from 2012. It was created by a man named Pascal Harold, who seems to have done more cartoons of similar caliber. Do not send me any of them! It was a cheap direct-to-DVD movie about the famous story of Cinderella, except set in the Wild West, and featured a cast of anthropomorphic characters that are a waking nightmare to look at. Oh God. I think I'm gonna be sick. It looks like if Mr. Pickles ate Zootopia and threw up all over Rango. It looks like they took some stock human bodies and just slapped a bunch of animal heads on them. It's so surreal, especially the bird people. It all just looks wrong. So here's our main character, Cinderella, who is a deer, I think, who lives in a small western town owned by her stepmother, who is a panda? Pug? Hamster? Whatever, it doesn't matter. And her two stepsisters, who are dogs. Literally and figuratively. Anyway, this version of Cinderella is a rough and tumble cowgirl who doesn't take crap from anyone.
These two had to learn to remove their hats when seeing a lady and not to spit.
I'm sorry. Would you mind bringing it to her? I mean, I don't dare. You see...
Oh, it's just you.
Good to see you, too.
Sorry, I took you for someone else.
She's also a gigantic hypocrite. This is all well and good, but here's the thing. The character of Cinderella is supposed to be sympathetic. She's in a bad situation, and when we see her find an opportunity for a better life, we want to see her get it. But with this version of Cinderella, things don't really seem that bad for her. They do establish that her parents died, but besides that, her life doesn't really seem that tragic. Cinderella is usually treated like a servant, but here, she just seems like a regular employee. Granted, her boss is a bitch, but given her personality, she could probably kick all their asses, or at the very least just leave whenever she wanted. So since things aren't that bad for her, they basically downsize all of her motivations to, I want a boyfriend!
It's incredible. There's not a single guy in this miserable town who demonstrates the least bit of chivalry.
Boy, I'm sure invested in this. Oh, but don't worry, Cinderella. Your Prince Charming is on the way. And here he is. Ladies, I know I'm asking a lot, but I'm gonna need you to calm down. So Prince What's-His-Name comes to town from God knows where with his mother, and yes, the old bird lady is his mother.
Oh, my lord, if I can just find someone to play cards with, I mean, some real players.
I hope you have been discreet, Mother.
I'm just gonna go ahead and assume he's adopted because I don't want to comprehend how a bird lady gives birth to a dog man. Now, I'm not really sure, but I think they tried to base him off the prince guy from The Princess and the Frog. You know, he comes into town, kind of charismatic, plays an instrument. I can't remember his name. That character was forgettable. But since he's in town, they decide to throw a ball. Or in this case, a saloon party? And of course, Cinderella wants to go, but I'm not really sure what's stopping her. Maybe she just needs a dress? It's never really made clear. So instead of the fairy godmother, which is in every version of Cinderella, she has this little shaman guy who apparently looked after her parents died. And he's the guy that's gonna get her to the ball, or hoedown, or whatever. He does so by doing some tambourine hippie dance and summons turkey spirits. Because this movie needs to be as weird as possible. What I don't get is why does this character stick around for the whole movie? Yeah, in the Disney version, the fairy godmother shows up once, and we never see her again. because she didn't need to. This guy is in most of the movie, and aside from saving everyone at the very end and doing his weird turkey dance, he doesn't do anything else. Though to be fair, so far no one in this movie's been likable. Ugh. I'm having bad flashbacks of the food fight review. So Cinderella shows up, and you know how this goes. The prince doesn't recognize her, even though he's seen her before, and they romance, I guess. I really don't want to think about it. Well, so far this movie, despite obvious problems, has, for the most part, hit all of the key moments of the Cinderella story. However, dear viewer, I have yet to mention the villains of the movie. Yeah, I guess the wicked stepmother and stepsisters weren't enough, because we also get these guys. Mexican desert pirate monkeys. Okay, I can't say this movie's not creative. Admittedly, these guys are probably the best part of the movie. Never thought I'd see a train heist with a full-on gunfight in an adaptation of Cinderella, and I'm pretty sure one of them gets killed.
Would it be too much to ask to be able to play a simple game of cards without being interrupted?
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to cut this conversation short.
They crash the party and kidnap the creepy bird lady and try to force her to give them her fortune. But she ends up tricking them into doing whatever she says, including cook for her, which does lead to a few funny moments.
If you would just
Disturbing me while I'm making macaroons with the Duchess. I ought to hang you.
But Effie, on the deck! Look, you'll see!
I'm right in the middle of preparing the custard, the most important part.
Anyway, since this is a Western, the inevitable saloon brawl breaks out. Oh! Oh my god! Oh, Cinderella just got punched in the face! That's a sentence I never thought I'd say. So, how are they gonna do the whole glass slipper thing? Everyone is wearing, like, cowboy boots. Those don't just slip off. Really? That's gross. Alright, whatever it takes to move this along. So the next day the prince wants to retrieve his mother and he runs into the shaman guy and Cinderella, and of course, he doesn't recognize her.
Oh, it's just you.
Good to see you, too.
Sorry, I took you for someone else. A young lady.
Oh, I'm sorry, I mistook you for that other girl in this small town that looks exactly like you. I'm kinda stupid. Now, I do have to give this movie credit for two things. First, there was a scene that established the stepsisters pulled out their own teeth to try and trick the prince that one of them was the mysterious girl. 'Cause, you know, they look just like her. This is actually a callback to the original story of Cinderella, where the stepsisters actually cut up their feet so they would fit into the glass slipper. Yeah, a lot of famous stories are pretty messed up before they get all Disney-fied. And the other thing is, during the trip, Cinderella and the prince actually spend time together, which is something I haven't seen in any version of Cinderella. And it works out a lot better than, oh, I immediately love you. Too bad it's gotta happen in this dumpster fire of a movie. I'm fast forwarding because I'm sick of looking at these characters. So they get onto the sand boat to rescue the bird lady, but they get captured because they're idiots. Now I know what you're thinking. We have a badass Cinderella in this story. Surely she's gonna kick all of their monkey asses, right? Nope, they immediately tie her up. No, instead Prince whatever fights. You know, everyone's favorite character. Then the boat explodes and starts to sink. On land. I cannot stress enough that we are in the desert and the ship is sinking. In the desert, which is the opposite of the ocean. Luckily everyone gets off except the stepmother, who goes down with the ship and dies. Yeah, seriously, she dies. Oh, by the way, they were chasing them down because she won the right to marry the prince in a card game with the bird lady that she cheated at, and I didn't mention this because it was a plot point that went nowhere. And now she's dead. And nobody cares, apparently. Wow, even the movie hated that character. Oh, speaking of plot points that go nowhere, remember the tooth? Yeah, it turns out it was also completely pointless because the prince's brain grows 2 sizes and he actually recognizes Cinderella.
It's me.
I've known that for a while. I thought you'd like to have all your teeth to eat our wedding cake.
I should be mad about this, but I don't care. We can go home now. So Cinderella and the prince presumably get married and go off to have horrific crossbreed children that are in defiance of God's design. The end. So that was Once Upon a Time in the 3D West Cinderella. It was pretty bad. But, is it worse than Food Fight? No. While they were both on par animation-wise and were each just as much of an eyesore to look at, Food Fight was a total mess of forced product placement. You can probably attribute most of its problems to the issues it had behind the scenes, but even if it came out halfway decent, it still would have felt like a total sellout movie. But I do have to give Cinderella a little credit. It had a few nice touches, like her and the prince actually spending time together, the nods to the original story, the sudden outbursts of violence, which were admittedly kind of funny, and in a weird way, I can see a Wild West version of Cinderella actually working. It didn't here, but I feel like it could have. So at the very least, I feel like some effort went into this. But that's where the compliments end. This movie is ugly, all of the characters were stupid and or just pointless, and for a badass Cinderella, they sure made her such a weak character. Way to screw that one up. If you want Cinderella, just stick to the Disney version. It's not perfect, nor is it even one of my favorite Disney movies, and no, it's not accurate to the original story either, but hey, none of Disney's movies are. Some less accurate than others. But it was still memorable and had that patented Disney charm. Plus, looking at it didn't make me want to puke, so it's got that going for it at least. But whatever you do, skip the Wild West Cinderella. Leave it in the Walmart bargain bin where it belongs. So this isn't going to get torn in half like Food Fight, but it's still getting tossed. Well, now that that little bit of business has been taken care of, let's get back to our usual stuff. Let's see. We haven't done any dinosaur shows in a while, so because I'm a glutton for punishment, next time we're gonna do another dinosaur show.